modern technology is such a convenience while being such an inconvenience at the same time. It's really easy, and yet it's whack, and it's really hard, and it makes our lives extremely, extremely inconvenient, because now everything's so easy that all of a sudden it kind of loops back on itself, and it's hard again, because sometimes basic tasks just end up looping around and having all of these extra intricacies of inconveniences where all of a sudden it becomes difficult to, say, record a meeting or an audio call where you have a lot of different inputs and outputs that eventually lead to some bug in some software where you end up having to update or inadvertently update and find out that a program has two different programs that it's now updated into without prompting you as much as you'd like. So you end up figuring out that you have to go down a rabbit hole, and the number of apps that we use increases over time such that we can't really keep track of all of our accounts. We don't know all of our passwords. They have to be updated every 90 days or however many times per year, and sometimes 30 days, or maybe log in once a week in order to keep our QR code or whatever signed in on some scanner or some login or some app. So everyone has hundreds of apps, but nobody knows all their passwords unless they use the same password or approximately the same password for everything, which is highly insecure. So it's like, how secure are we really? And what is security at the end of the day? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was a lot of reality right there. Yeah, I agree. I know what you mean. And like, I feel like with technology, things are trying to get really high tech, and whatever that means. But it's like, to me, high tech just means more complexity, and more complexity just means more places to fail, and I don't know, more things to have to worry about. Essentially, it's like having a fixie bike versus a 21 speed with like dual shocks, and I don't even know the terminologies, but like, you know what I mean, like just a really complex machine versus a simple one. Yeah, they're both probably gonna roughly do the same thing. These bikes are probably gonna take you from point A to point B. One of them is probably just a little fancier and more high tech, quote unquote, advanced or whatever, specialized, but it'll probably cost you a lot more to fix. It'll probably break down on you. There's more pieces that might fail, and you're just going to have more to worry about, versus that fixie that you can just beat around and not really have to worry about. And I guess another analogy would be, like a complex wristwatch versus a sundial. The sundial is not going to fail. You just leave it there, and it's going to accurately tell time as long as the sun still comes up and down, which it always will. It's the most reliable thing there is, right? But humans want the high-tech complexity because apparently that makes us feel special.
So are we special at the end of the day, right? Are individual human beings, because of the complexity and the length of our genome and the fact that it's probable that no other organism of your exact genome or environmental experiences has ever existed, unless we take the argument of the universe being large enough that it is guaranteed that in fact somebody who is exactly you does exist somewhere far out enough, if the uniformity of the universe is a fact. Disregarding that argument, are you actually special? But I just disregarded the fact that you are not, because I went over this argument the other day, and I guess it just depends on whether you are a materialist or not, because if we have finite complexity in our cells and our mental phenomena, our neurons, if it really is materialistic phenomenon, and we are this clump of cells of organic chemistry with a finite number of atoms that can be combined in a finite number of ways, then somewhere far out there, maybe past the observable universe, but maybe in this universe theoretically that we used to be in the same event horizon within, the parameters of observation of, but no longer are within observable boundaries of, there is another you, and there is another me, and there's another Earth, and there's another Earth just like this one with everyone else, but slightly different, with a different history slightly, but almost exactly the same as this one. So are we special? Are we actually as special as we think we are? And on that note, are we supposed to conform to some standard or duty of what was meant by nature for us to do, regardless of whether we want to stand out and be special. So what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think we're special, I guess. I don't think humans have ever been special. I think there were probably previous human civilizations, like, I don't know, Egyptians and before them Sumerians, or pre-Ice Age civilizations and whatnot, that rose and fell. They probably all thought they were the most special beings, or maybe they didn't, right? I guess my other, I don't know, a thought I have all the time is it intelligent to think you're intelligent, right? It's like the idea of intelligence that the human mind has manifested in order to, I don't know, pat itself on the back kind of thing. Is that intelligent, or are those just like thought loops, the needless thought loops that distract you from doing the right thing in the right moment? That kind of stuff. Like, we were talking about how you were almost hit in an intersection the other day, and it's like, well, people are honking instead of reacting to organic situation of, oh, these two objects are going to collide, but there's something I can do to perturb the trajectory in order to, escape in a collision. But instead of reacting organically, people are thinking, oh, that means going to honk at them and maybe they'll get out of the way. And is that even intelligent? Like, animals won't do that. It's only humans that might do that, in my opinion, right? It's like, oh, right, get out of my way. Don't hit, you better not hit me, even though it's pretty obvious due to like physics, and you just look at how fast that thing is moving, how much mass it has, and how slippery the road surface is. It's gonna hit you. And it's like, well, is it intelligent? I would argue no. I mean, are we special? No. I would say we're probably less special. If there were previous human civilizations here, I would say this is not even up there in terms of being special. I think we're special in that we are probably the ones that think we are the most special out of like all recent civilizations, I guess. I think we're the pettiest, essentially. Like, previous civilizations might have just been like, I don't know, more spiritual or something, or like more understanding of like organisms and nature, and like not wanting to cheat nature in any way, or I don't know, maybe they totally did, but like nature always wins. And so I guess, are we special? No, we can't even beat nature.
No. Right. Yeah, so, and it's the hubris of thinking that we're special that kind of proves that we're not, because it's like you're saying, are we intelligent if we think we're on the top of intelligence scale? Like, the one that's analyzing the intelligence scale is stating that it is in fact on top, and it's like, right, oh, dolphins are second, or gorillas or whatever, and elephants, but we're on top, and ants are really low down, even though they have a much more cohesive colony structure that works together like way more efficiently than humans do. I mean, there are conflicts with their colonies and things as well, but like they seem to all be in sync and on the same page, as well as like ourselves seem to be as organisms. So maybe that's some kind of scale factor there, but you know what I mean. Even with the very so-called not very complex brains that they have, they seem to work together unbelievably well by the millions. So we apparently don't quite do that as well. But on another note, we have the hubris of thinking that because we are special, we sit at the pinnacle of history and we are at its top, kind of, which is always meaning that it's before the fall right now, right? Because thinking you're special means you're about one generation from collapse, basically, if you let it get to your head. Because at the end of the day, no period in history is special, because we all know the whole saying that history repeats itself, right? So we're always collapsing, and it's a measure of, or a test of, do we have the buoyancy to push ourselves up even harder than we're collapsing? Because anything that's like not maintained automatically falls down, right? Whatever goes up must come down, unless, of course, acted upon by an outside force of buoyancy, or us pushing up as hard as we can with burdening ourselves with as much toil and discovery of like semi-painful experiences that kind of roughen us up about the true nature of just nature and life, and that makes us have enough challenges to where we can grin and bear it and get it together and somehow maintain civilization, which, if we think we're special too much, could end up just leading to our demise. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're never going to realize that how we think we're special, like, we're probably too fun in terms of how special we think we are. And I guess, like another, I don't know, I just keep thinking of analogies right now for some reason, but like I guess another analogy, I suppose, is I just see like human civilizations or like empires as clocks, individual clocks telling time. It's like an individual clock saying, "Oh, I am the most accurate clock in the universe." It's like relative to what, right? Like,
right.
If you say, "Oh, I'm the most intelligent human," or like humans are the most intelligent species, like in the universe, it's like, okay, that's like one clock saying it's the most absolutely correct in telling time. It's like relative to what? Like, what in the universe is going to admit that you're correct? Like,
well, because
who knows
we already
better
know
than what you claim?
Right, we already know,
because you're already claiming like
yeah, and we already know time is relative to inertial reference frame or non-inertial reference frame and relative velocity, right? So on that front, on the physics front, there is no most accurate clock. Every clock is most accurate from its own perspective, I guess. And yeah, you can have poor maintenance and like a non-cesium clock, which most clocks are not. So it's like, okay, on the pure atomic level, there are more and less accurate clocks that are more and less reliable. But you still cannot get out of the fact that there is no most reliably correct clock because there are only different reference frames, right? And the same can go for intelligence, right? Because what is intelligence at the end of the day? It has to do with something regarding turning the information available around you, its inputs, into the correct outputs of how you're going to decide how to get what you want through your own abilities and your own framework of your own body, your own mindset, turning the inputs into your own correct outputs from your own perspective to ensure the greatest likelihood of your own flourishing and survival and that of your species or generations and whatnot, right? So, really,
like,
how well are we actually doing that, right? If we're declining in our birth rates, in our population, if we're not flourishing in our happiness levels, if we're not flourishing in terms of depression, suicidality, people on all these meds for mental conditions, and a lot of people feeling more lonely, everyone knows about this whole spiel about this mass loneliness epidemic and how we have it easier and more convenient than ever. We're supposedly living longer than ever, although I think that's kind of a hoax, and a lot of the life-extending spiels and stories about how we actually have a higher life expectancy have to do with living longer after early childhood, rather, instead of living healthy throughout adulthood, which I think we're living less healthy through adulthood. So it's kind of leveled out in terms of our life expectancy. But regardless, age is just a number, so it kind of depends on what you do in life, in my opinion, more so than how long you live. And I think we get attached to this number of thinking that because we're in some kind of advanced era that somehow we're all going to get cryogenically, extended into 1,000 years or something, and we'll, freeze ourselves until we discover infinite life, and then everyone will have infinite life. And I think that's just kind of the whole lie of the fact that we can transcend nature, and it's the whole transhumanist movement. And then there are many different aspects to that as well, because within transhumanism, it's like, do you want to live forever organically by inserting things that stop the telomeres from decaying on the end of your genome or something that mimic more of these immortal jellyfish genes or something, and insert other modifications to your genetics from genetic engineering in order to become biologically immortal, to be like part jellyfish or something? Or do you want to go the route of hip replacement, like putting metal in yourself and merging with machines, and that kind of transhumanism of no longer actually being a biological organism even, and just forever being a machine? And it's like there are different forms of desired transhumanist ideologies going around today that people don't really talk about it on this terminology spectrum, but it's kind of like the vibe of some of the ways that people portray humanity as advancing these days to something basically approaching a utopia where everyone gets to live forever in the flesh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like I don't know. I don't have any stats on this, even though we're stats GDP. But like, I feel like majority of the people who say they want to live forever are probably middle age or younger. Because people who are older, what ends up happening is they start seeing people around them die, right? And you get enough of that after a while. It's like you don't want to live forever, really, because unless you just want to be like individual on your own, like some curmudgeon, or just like in the mountains somewhere. Because once you start gaining social relationships, you're just gonna see people die, right? And that's like the worst, right? I can imagine that almost. Like it's like, yeah, I don't want to live forever, because even if I am fully healthy, if my body works like I'm 20, like, you know, my mind is like fresh like I'm 20, like I don't care about any of that, because that just means that I fully am like, you know, experiencing the fact that everyone around me is dying, right? And that I will, it's like hell after a while, like 1,000 years, 10,000 years. Like, how long do you want to live and witness all of this tragedy?
Right. At some point, you will think you're a god because you're immortal, but you're seeing that you are in fact so removed from your own humanity that you can't even like desire the formation of relationships anymore on any level, because anything you care about will die in a relatively short and infinitesimally short lifespan, basically relative to you. So like you can't care about anything anymore at that point, or you basically just check out and just be in a really bad mental state. So I guess I get what you're saying in terms of the fact that I guess old people, most of the time, if they've already gone through their lives and they've achieved basically what they want to and are fulfilled in their lifespan's work, basically, that they are content living out their natural lifespan and dying, which I also want to do, because it's motivational, right? If I get to live forever, I don't have to do anything, because no matter what, I'm still alive, you know, so I can always still enjoy being alive. So wanting to live forever is a way of putting off what you could do today, basically, is my opinion.
So you know what's the dark outcome to all this? It's almost like new age tattoos, where it's like, you know, back in the day, it's like, you know, 50s or something, you get drunk with your friends and you're 18, you go out and get a tattoo you regret for the rest of your life until you're old grandpa, right? What if the new age tattoo is you're 18 and you're now fully legal as an adult to like modify your body to extend your life as much as you want? And what if you have these like millionaire, you know, nepo babies or whatever that like, well, when they're 18, they can guarantee that they live to 1,000 already, and then they get to like 40 or 50, and the whole thing that we're talking about starts kicking in, right? And then it's too late to reverse it. You know what I mean? Like, they would literally have to commit suicide in order to end their life.
Right. Or just like,
so it's like the darkest outcome I can think of. Yeah, like,
effectively the same thing.
Right. So. But yeah. Like that's that'd be pretty sad. But I think it might happen. That's how dark it is.
Well, because how can you do everything you could ever want to do to get everything that, quote, life has to offer for you, you know, quote unquote, if you don't get to live forever, right? We have so much access to so much supposed information of digital variety nowadays that we can pretend we're traveling when we're not, and then we can want to go to those places, and I can be like, well, I want to go to New Zealand, and I want to go to Kazakhstan as well, right? And I want to go to every country. So now I'm going to need a lot of vacations and a lot of years to do that. So I might as well be allowed to live forever, and I can have it all, you know. So it's very tempting to want to live and extend your lifespan an unnaturally long amount, which it's good to live long and live healthy, because living healthy will make you live well and feel good, and that will generally make you live long as well. But it's not really the end. It's mostly like the feeling of creating the most amount of enjoyability to your own life and just the quality of life, regardless of how long it is, right? I think so. Long lifespan just comes with living a good life. So you should just want to live a good life regardless of how long it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's why people say they're not here for a long time, they're here for a good time. I don't know if I fully live by that, but like I would agree with that more than, you know, wanting to live forever, or you know, modify my genetics, or amputate something, replace it with a robot in order to live longer.